Dow Chemical has decided that it is time for them to put into their chemical plants around the country, starting in the Gulf Coast, of course, a nuclear reactor. Wow. Well, these are small nuclear reactors, megawatts, 1 million watts of power, or some smaller than that. Why? Is because, like in the Gulf Coast, they get hurricanes. You know what a hurricane does? Shuts off the electric power. And then if you're running and you go into a chemical plant and outside the lights that are going on, all the crackers, everything else is run on electricity, which heats up the stuff. And when your power goes off, everything shuts down. That's expensive, really expensive. And since there's more hurricanes out there and more powerful hurricanes, they drop a lot of water and they do make a lot of wind and they pull down power lines. And how expensive? You got money? Oh yes. Now a house doesn't. Hey, the little house over there loses power. They have candles. You can't put candles in a chemical plant. And I will tell you one thing, they use up a lot of electricity. They want their own nuclear power plant. One is to cut the carbon, because when the power goes off, then the diesel generators pop on. And these are not the best, cleanest diesel in the world they're using. So yes, it's practical. And like the U.S. military, who also wants to eliminate diesel on their bases, like in Guam. Yeah, Guam, this thing is running all by diesel. They want to be able to take a small nuclear reactor, which is produced by a company called X Energy, which has a nuclear reactor inside of a 40-foot cargo container. It's all sealed. Once you turn it on, it's good for 5 years. I think it was 5. Yeah, I think it was. They said 5 years. Yes, gas cooled, what have you. Well, once it goes on, it stays on, and then you can just shut it down. But 5 years without burning diesel. That's what Guam has. It runs on diesel. Thousands of gallons of diesel to make everything work. This way it eliminates that thing, saving millions and saving the atmosphere. That's what the same basically happens with Dow. They said yes. And they said by next 5 years, many of their plants around the country will be being run on nuclear power for the main reasons. Snowstorms, rainstorms, hurricanes, tornadoes. And these will all be, and I can guarantee you one thing, these are, as I said, they're basically will be sunk in the ground. Of course, I wouldn't sink them in Louisiana. Housing in concrete, literally they say, well, housing in concrete and steel and everything else for the elements to withstand the 250 mile an hour winds. Very practical. And they run on, they said they're, as it's shown on one of the demonstration, go to X Energy, put it into your computer and look how they have it. They're running in little itty bitty pebbles. Yes. And it's currently being made in Tennessee. They got, I believe they have a couple of reactors in there, going on. So basically the whole thing is running on nuclear. And it's good for industrial parks. Think about it. How many industrial parks lose power and that thing? And nuclear is no carbon footprint. places like O'Hare Field, when the power goes off, the diesel generators pop in. And if you want to be in downwind of a diesel generator from O'Hare Field in Chicago, Illinois. Oh yes, yes, yes. Great Lakes. Great Lakes up in northern Illinois. I think they have a coal burning plant up there. Zion's up there with a coal burning plant. But I thought I saw a coal burning plant there. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that was the Zion one. Well, think about how much the military uses in fuel around the world, and if they can have a nuclear cargo thing you can pick up, move, and put down and tap into, and when you're done, you just pick it up and move again. Can these be made into nuclear bombs? Oh my goodness gracious me! No. The tablets are these small tablets. Basically, you can't take them apart, so they just heat up. And of course, nuclear power plants, you can't turn them into nuclear bombs either. The energy output is for boiling water. This is what this X-energy does. It boils water, turns water to steam, it runs a generator, it cools down, and all this stuff is circulated. The main gas in there is helium, which doesn't burn. I'll let you put it out of the sun. But yeah, they look pretty good. I would think they have basically said in 10 years all the Dow plants will be very likely have nuclear in it. Shell has their operation, and yes, especially when you're in foreign countries. Think about it. Shell has operations all around the world, and they're running their own diesel generators because the locals, power is iffy, even if all on small cities. X-Energy Canada wants remember what it is. There's a lot of areas where they're running on diesel, and it's expensive to move diesel so you can burn it up. Besides polluting the atmosphere, they're running diesel all the time. In the United States, if you're dealing in Alaska, it's running diesel. Guam is running diesel. Many of our outposts are running diesel. And if you can have a small nuclear reactor, like industrial nuclear reactors, you might be able to, well, they're in Illinois, Cook County. I believe there are 3, I know a couple that are industrial nuclear reactors, but I think 3 schools have small industrial nuclear reactors in them, if they're still there. They may have told the Department of Energy to get rid of them. But I think what is it? I know IIT. Was IIT something? Maybe once. I think Northwestern had one. And now you're talking 50s and 60s, guys, a long time ago, when people really were interested in nuclear, before Bill Clinton and his crowd decided to march against nuclear as being evil and destructive. It's dangerous, it's dangerous. Not in my backyard. Oh, I want a nuclear power plant. Would you like to have a coal burning plant in your backyard? You got a choice, nuclear or coal. Yeah. Oh no, I'm going to have solar and wind. Right. So when the wind doesn't blow at night, the sun doesn't shine, oh, you got that $15,000 lithium batteries on your wall. Interesting. But I would expect, and by the turn of the century, 80, 78 years, be a lot of nuclear power plants spread around the country, and they're basically sealed, self-sealed, and I've heard that some of these can go 50 years without having to change the pellets or change the yeah, they're big. They're not the great big stuff. And it's practical. Unless you like burning diesel, burning oil, burning coal. Oh yes, by the end of this century, the population of the United States will be in the upper 9 figures. They all want power. Of course, I presume everybody's going to be living underground because the 125 average temperature out there will cook everybody, except for the new diesel. Yeah. Well, you know, you got shopping centers that use a lot of electricity. Yeah. I have a strange feeling that our future will be underground. If you're not being flooded. Living in caves again, boys. We're the mole people. Oh, fooey with this. Now if I can only get X energy.